We were in uncharted territory now, making up history as we went along.
We're really, both of us, in uncharted territory here, aren't we?
Well, it turns out those intelligence tests tested nothing but our gullibility.
I cheated on my intelligence test. Period.
What a marvelous contradiction. A military pacifist.
It's an intelligence test.
You did great on your intelligence test.
So he searched the regimental records for the soldiers with the highest scores on the intelligence tests and requisitioned us as a squad.
Is that purely decorative?
It's purely decorative.
Drawing with chalk!
She used to eat chalk.
Ugh, we're out of chalk.
Everyone has some contradictions.
Yam's a prime example of a monarch.
This was not the prime example of...
The sunlight window is one of the prime examples.
And fulminate of mercury is a prime example of that.
Except in the abstract as instruments of policy.
It's abstract.
In the abstract, we cannot.
Let them be well used, for they are the abstract and brief chronicles of the time.
I mean, you can't force yourself to conform to some abstract vision of love or...
And yet...
And yet somehow hackneyed circumstance and...
And yet, life continues.
And yet, you survived.
You give him no credit, and yet he tries to do your will.
And yet he succeeded.
Time of his escape, he finally gained his freedom and ran northeastward across Ohio towards Lake Erie. Illiterate, in all likelihood, certainly functionally illiterate and innumerate at the time of his escape, he quickly made himself over into a new man after settling in Cleveland and later Buffalo, where he used his unschooled, hard-earned literacy to make himself, over the next 5 decades, the most prolific, pioneering, and accomplished African-American writer and multimedia figure of the 19th century.
Math, I'm scared of maths. I'm enumerate. So any change where I have to do some numbers, I get very, concerned about. So if the unknown contains maths, I'm nervous. So how do we solve that problem? Well, it's pretty easy. Between where we are and where we're going to get to is all of this stuff. And this is foreseeable, predictable stuff. We know about this. Yeah? I'm someone who, I don't like flying.
Counted every... Now, this is India and the census of India. That's a weird one. What the heck is going on there? That's weird. So what it is people don't know their ages. They're enumerate. And so it gets counted every 5 or 10 years. So here's a 5-year or 10-year period. They know their ages approximately to approximately a certain year. They don't know it exactly. It's not in a...
Even the enumerate Labour Party can describe an increase in funded childcare from 412.5 hours a year, which is what they provided, to 600 hours a year, which is what we are providing, as a deterioration.
Because, as we know, the vast majority of people were enumerate. They did not even know their own age. What did such things matter? The end was nigh, and they would be judged.
It takes a whole lot of effort.
Relationships, they take time and effort.
It takes effort, boy.
It takes time, effort, and understanding.
Will take effort.
True commitment takes effort.
Zombies dancing and choreographed synchronicity implausible.
Or some implausible theory about Mom and her criminal second life.
Obtained these discs is somewhat implausible.
Implausible, but sweet.
Oh, sounds completely implausible.
Sounds ridiculously implausible.
Where do you get this implausible optimism?
Study for deviating from the control group.
And the control group displayed
The evidence looks compelling.
It's confounding and overwhelming.
I was a little confounded.
A very compelling piece of evidence.
This case confounds me. Just confounds me.
This is confounding.
I should have guessed, shouldn't I?
Hi, I'm Tom. It's really good to meet you at last.
I'm confounded.
I've got to get away from these confounded relatives hanging on the bell all day, never giving me a moment's peace.
But love confounded her.
All but one.
Did he kill my friends?
All but one. But you're gonna have to give me a little bit more if I'm gonna find him alive.
We've captured all but one of the humans.
We've gathered all but one.
I can play any instrument at all, you name it. I'm a multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah, well...
Chauffeur Joe Lefebvre, a once almost promising instrumentalist.
All right, that's grossly oversimplifying things.
You grossly misread the situation.
You're grossly outnumbered.
That Adelina was grossly underpaid.
And also grossly sentimental and oversimplistic.
Gestapo were grossly exaggerating.
Through a combination of ability, determination, and sheer hard graft, he was able to overcome the barrier of class and become the first man to rise from private to field marshal.
When we renovate anything, we try and do it with the same skills that we used 200 years ago, or hand riveting and this sort of thing. And it gives you an idea of the hard graft that went into building railways in the early days.
I'll do our graft, you can.
The risk would have been putting in the hard graft to make it well.
Perhaps we'll turn our attention to your spelling now that your mathematics is well in hand.
You earned a double first in mathematics.
It's so unmusical a word.
He wants to take classical music lessons.
I gotta learn an instrument.
So ignorant in classical music.
Karate, photography, maybe even learn an instrument.
The infamous Emperor Nero played an instrument.
It can be a frustrating instrument to learn. So, you play an instrument?
What do I have to learn instruments?
Well, I'm glad you're learning an instrument.
Hey, you know what? Maybe you guys could learn an instrument.
We are complementary.
Of course, it's compliment.
Is it complimentary?
Blue and orange are complementary colors.
Before we get going, we've got a bit of rain forecast, so I will be handing out your complimentary Dreyfus Tours Pacamax.
That accounts for almost 95% of Nigeria's total export earnings. Yet precious little of that has ever made its way back to Delta communities.
I dreamed up stories about us, and late at night wrote them down.
Are you telling me that I dreamed up all those classes and tests?
Hey, this isn't something that I dreamed up myself.
It will immobilize you for up to 15 minutes, and in all probability it will render you unconscious as well, so I would let go of that man.
An axe in all probability.
And in all probability, after they kill me, you're next on the list now.
The 10 guilty men who go free will in all probability kill again.
Which would, in all probability, produce...
In all probability, this person would have been interviewed.
I never wanted you. In all probability, he hates you.
In all likelihood, Susie's probably hiding in the closet.
In all probability, did not even exist.
An airstrike may very well kill Susie.
You may very well get all four. We may very well have the cure.
And that may very well be true. Why? Because we may very well be dealing...
A ball may very well work.
Well, that may very well be.
Which it very well may.
May very well exist.
You may well be.
This may very well be our last mission, Ethan.
This may very well be for real.
She may very well have an abortion.
You may well be surprised, Miss Elizabeth. Especially given our cold greeting this afternoon.
I realise that this exclusion may well be upsetting for you and the whole family, but there must be clear consequences for violent behaviour.
This network may well be the most significant profit center of the communications complex.
The person may very well still be alive somewhere.
Yea, strife and reproach shall cease.
I mean, Craig, the way you run your office is beyond...
But your credibility is beyond reproach.
No one is above reproach.
My wife is beyond reproach.
Mary reproaches me. You upset quite a few people today, didn't you, Ray?
Quite a few babies over the years.
No, you skirted quite a few rules tonight, Mr. Thompson.
Here, now I've been a bartender for quite a few years.
These beans weigh quite a few 100 pounds.
Whoa.
I have called quite a few times about...
Now, I've already had quite a few partnership requests.
I got quite a few in, actually.
Apparently eliminated quite a few subversives.
Together, it's been quite a few years.
You sustained quite a few injuries.
In fact, quite a few thousand.
A lot of things you said really struck a chord.
Quite a few people.
Yeah, it might make it hard to strike a really romantic note.
I don't think that's hitting the right note. Begin again.
Out with your fly down might strike the wrong note.
It could strike a wrong note and would be deeply upsetting.
Settle the score later.
So I can settle the score.
We've been working together for 12 years.
It is time to settle the score.
I'm coming back to settle the score.
It's time to settle the score.
Now, just one last score to settle.
Our yam to settle the score? Huh?
You were right, that was fun. I'm gonna go finish packing. Can you guys stop barking?
This was necessary for your family's safety.
Oh, see, I'd be worried about your own safety if I were you.
All this up nasty faces you can do. We've got to keep this moving. We've got to find another way of getting another string to our bow. There's always this constant pressure, this sense that we're being hounded, chased through the woods, that we've got to get another direction going. So we were experimenting with photography.
As it was for Edward, if not with some of the girls. The story would leak out and come to Tilly's ears, and Tilly would despise her more than she did already. So would all the rest. She was branded, as it was, for not having a single string to her bow. Now it had become plain to her that she could never—
This year for Valentine's Day, we're gonna have a nice quiet dinner at Ibiza. Last year, we overreached a little.
We created sexy alter egos, Clive and Juliana.
You feel more connected, really.
I've got another string to my bow.
What's the global impact?
It's good to have more than one string to your bow.
It's another string to my bow.
Tells me I'd better have 2 strings to my bow.
I bought it for a song?
And for you, my friend, I will let you have all the decorations you want for a song.
When I see them, I'm more happy to see my sister than I am to argue about politics.
Yes, and we got it for a song.
After all, I was once an actor of note.
The next case of note is Alice Carden in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, 1943.
Harry, listen to this. Valentine's at last saying something of note.
I pay well to be informed of anything of note in any city in which I stay.
Anything of note? Report back here.
Nothing of note. Business as usual.
Nobody of note.
Nothing of note.
Anything of note?
I am from out
of town.
I'm from out of town.
I intend to write that soap company a strongly worded letter.
We could write them a strongly worded email?
You will be getting a very strongly worded letter, mister.
With a strongly worded letter on my letterhead.
A strongly worded note in their mailbox.
A very strongly worded text from me.
Send her a strongly worded email when
We could write a strongly worded letter.
Who had just read his strongly worded letter.
I intend to write a strongly worded letter to the White Star Line about all this.
I am composing strongly worded letter.
Jody, certainly I can count on you to say something singularly constructive.
I can't think of anything that would stand in the way of a singularly happy marriage.
The sun doesn't set. It's somewhere over there at the moment, and throughout the course of the day, it just moves along the horizon, right round 360 degrees as the Earth rotates, with the North Pole pointing directly towards the sun.
It's 4 individuals thinking singularly, acting collectively.
Their priorities are singularly focused on their own issues.
He spends all his days singularly obsessed planning the festival to honor your father.
Singularly unique, sculptured in design, handcrafted in Switzerland, and water-resistant to 3 atmospheres?
Regrettably, no. At the moment, I'm singularly unemployed, as you can hardly fail to have noticed.
What I am talking about, Chad, is that you are a singularly unimaginative young man.
Singularly remarkable.
And it appears that you are singularly bereft in any talents whatsoever, Mr. Burns.
Put, that was a staggeringly dramatic display of athletic ability.
Singularly unattractive character, I must say.
And I do want to be able to feel the wood grain. I want it to be some touch. They want this wood. And that's how you know.
You're just highlighting that wood grain that you drew with the knife. See how that just really brings it up. And quite rough and quite...
They cut against the grain.
See where the bark has split, revealing the wood grain underneath.
All around you can see traces of that. Now, don't switch off when I say what I'm going to say next.
The texture, the grain.
The grain could be better.
I always wanted to be a world-renowned xylophone player.
What's vibes? Xylophone, man.
Sorry I couldn't find that xylophone.
The wood grain pattern's weird, though. It's like it's familiar.
They started talking about synthesizer.
As if you have the deafness to play a double reed woodwind.
I need a full orchestra, woodwinds, string.
Until Beth took down the snare drum, half of the woodwinds.
She plays clarinet, too.
10 to play a percussive or brass instrument.
During the competition, everyone has to stand.
They call them champagne flutes because, you know, they were long and narrow, like, you know, like woodwind instruments, like a, you know, like flute. Right.
You see, I had lots of sexual misconduct with the woodwind and percussion sections. The first few pages warn that these enduring creatures may lie dormant, but are never truly dead.
Those of you who may have played brass instruments in high school, you know that was triple tonguing, baby.
I think it's great that you're taking a stand.
Most enduring traditions of the season are best enjoyed in the warm embrace of kith and kin.
If I weren't an actor, I would want to be a chef.
We took a stand on civil rights.
So really, all I want to do is to thank those of you who came along to the church, and the rest of you who could only come to the reception.
And then that bitch came along with her tricks and her lies.
You came along at a pivotal time.
Came along at just the right time for us.
Yeah. It's a good thing you came along when you did.
George, you came along when Kay needed a little excitement in her life, but I don't think it would last between you because